Heartily welcome to our series, The Faithquotient. Today we want to talk about obedience of faith. How is faith and obedience connected together? And is this something good? You know, when I made my bad experiences in my church, some things were really terrible. We had a leader, he was pressing down all the people. It was horrible. That man was really horrible. And when I heard the word obedience, there was rebellious inside of me. And they told me, you are a sinner because of your rebellious attitude. But do you know, God has created us like that. That we are not following people who are dangerous and crazy. We are not called to obey and to trust everybody. So for me it was a long way to come to the heart of faith, to come to obedience to God, to understand it's a difference to believe in God or to believe in humans. When you have made bad experiences, it's good to doubt in people. Don't trust anybody. But start with Jesus. He will not disappoint you. I came to that logical conclusion. Obey the one who has created you. He knows best how your life can come to fulfillment. And the other point, obey to the one who died for you. He can only have the best intentions. There I started to put my trust and to start with obedience. Look what Paul says in Romans chapter 1 verse 5. He says, through him, Jesus, we have received grace and apostleship for obedience to the faith among all nations for his name. Obedience of faith, not the obedience of tradition, not the obedience of people who wants to control and manipulate you. It's the obedience of faith. And your faith is connected to God and his word and his leading. So make this difference. It's a privilege to have the word of God, to have right convictions, or to have a leading of God. What should we do without it? It's so wonderful that we can obey God, but we must learn it. There's a wonderful story in the Bible in the 2 Kings, verse 5. A general, an important person, is coming to the prophet Elisha because the general is ill. And Elisha says to the king, he should come. And then he will realize that there is a prophet of God. This sounds very proud, but we see the heart of Elisha. When the general comes to his house, Elisha is not going out of the house. Crazy situation. He must not show up himself. But by a messenger he gives the word of God. He says, and Elisha sent a messenger to him saying, go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored to you, and you shall be clean. That's a real prophet. He must not show up, but he gives the word of God. But the general, he became angry because he had his own religious system. He was willing to make big sacrifices, a big ritual. He expected that the prophet comes out and gives the respect, and he was willing to give the respect back to him. That's how the world is working. The world is full with this. But the real prophet of God, he can stay in silence. The word is important. And he says, then the general, is the water not better in the country where I am coming from? Why should I believe this? And then he wanted to go home again. But the servant said to him, hey, you were ready to do big things to get healed. Why are you not willing to act in faith easily? Go into the water, as he said. So he did. 7 times, and he was healed. And then he realized the point. It's not about the water quality. It's easily the obedience in God. And look what he says. In 2 Kings chapter 5, he came back to the house, verse 15, and he returned to the man of God, and he and all his aides and came and stood before him, and he said, indeed, now I know that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. Now I know. You know, the only way to come to this level of knowledge is obedience of faith. So many people know in theory the whole Bible, but they never made the experience of God because they are not willing to act in obedience. They are not searching for the will of God. They are maybe afraid of God's will. What happens when God will send you into another country to make mission there? Or what will happen when God says to me, I shall leave all I have and follow him? So people are afraid of God. They are not really believing in him. They are afraid. But those who are breaking through to the real faith in Jesus Christ, they realize, forget the rest. I will only follow you. I will only trust you. I will only obey you. This has changed my whole life, and I made so many experiences with Jesus. One small example. We have a small Bible school here in Sweden. Once God said to me, it was an easy impression from God. Make a mission day in Germany. There you will get the money to buy a building here and start a Bible school. And I did it. And there a person came to me and said, hey, God has laid on our heart, my wife and me, we are willing to pay the money so you can buy the building and start the Bible school. I made this experience very often. To go in faith and obedience belongs together. That's the only way to come into the prepared works of God and make the experience of real miracles and answered prayers. Heartily welcome to our next part.